too. Long ago, however, the head of the club had demonstrated his cold, calculated approach to everything, and everyone, including the siblings he'd grown up with on the street. Helena returned her attention to her columns. "Tell him I'm done." She directed that pronouncement at the page, as she considered the area to best reduce expenses. "Not good enough," Callum drawled, and she looked up, a gasp escaping her. "Christ on Sunday!" The pen slipped from her fingers. "Must you sneak?" Several inches past 6 feet, and broad across the chest, a man of his sheer size had no right to be so stealthy. It had served them well when he'd been one of the most skilled pickpockets in all of London, but it proved a bother when one was trying to focus. He rested his hip on the edge of the desk and stared pointedly. "The numbers, Helena," he said, fanning her exasperation. For as fortunate as she was to not be any bastard-born child whoring in the streets, a deep-seated irritation simmered inside for the still powerless role that came with being a woman in her 24th year with so little influence. "Does he want them now?" she snapped, pulling her spectacles off and tossing them on the desk. "Or does he want them correct?" Callum grinned. "He wants both." Pointing her eyes to the ceiling, Helena threw down her pen. "Very well." She shoved back her chair. Ignoring the way Callum shot his dark brown eyes to his hairline, she started for the door. "Where in hell are you going?" She froze mid-movement and wheeled back. "To see—" "Riker is on the floors," he interrupted, all earlier hint of amusement gone, replaced with a dark scowl. And with reason. Even the prospect of Helena setting foot on the floors, or outside the club, at the height of the early morn gaming hours, was an act that had been expressly forbidden. It had also seen one careless guard fired when she'd wandered onto those floors 10 years earlier. Helena folded her arms at her chest. "I live here," the place she'd lived for nearly half her life. Callum snorted and then matched her pose. "I know where you live. Do you, Helena?" She gritted her teeth and tamped down on the endless barrage of questions and pleadings she'd put to all of her brothers through the years, to no avail. There were valid reasons for her to stay tucked away. But also, as a grown woman, in charge of the finances for the club, there was a grating restiveness inside her. What power did she truly have? In a place where lords ruled the polite world and ruthless men led the underbelly, women were left on the fringe of both. "I swear you'd all have me prisoner in my own home," she muttered under her breath. She cast a covetous glance at the door that shook under the force of the ribald laughter from the floor below. Callum settled a large palm on her shoulder, and she stiffened. "There are rules for a reason," he said, with gruff gentleness. Since Riker had rescued Helena, a girl of 6, from Diggory's clutches, he had ingrained into her the necessity of rules. There were only, and always, rules. She lifted her gaze and held Callum's stare with an unflinching directness. "I'm not a girl anymore, Callum." And yet they all saw her as wee Helena, in need of protecting. Now, just 3 inches shy of 6 feet, she towered over most men. "No, you are not a girl. You are something far more dangerous." He cuffed her under the chin. "You're a woman." With a sigh, she started over to her desk. Yes, she was a woman, who straddled 2 worlds. She'd never belong amongst those toffs on the gaming hell floors, but neither would she be viewed wholly as a member of the hell and sin. Not as the youngest, protected sister of the lethal Riker Black. "He'll need at least 10 more cases of brandy before the week's through." Callum whistled. His otherwise silence spoke more words than a Shakespearean novel. Helena's ears burned with heat, and she swallowed back the defensive words on her lips. In their world, you didn't make excuses. You took ownership of your decisions and actions, even if you weren't entirely to blame. Still, "I advised him to buy a cheaper quality and larger quantity." Even as the words left her mouth, the futility of them registered. Callum gave her a pointed look that only sent further warmth spiraling to her pale cheeks. Blasted pale skin. "Riker expects the best." She firmed her jaw, Callum's meaning clear. Riker expected the best for his clients. And